A spokesperson for the Presidential Campaign Council of Nigeria's ruling All Progressives Congress Party says the APC is not worried about former President Olusegun Obasanjo's endorsement of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi in the February 25th presidential elections. Bayo Onanunga says Obasanjo's recommendation has no electoral value for Nigerians, especially voters from the former president's home state of Ogun. In his letter of support, former President Obasanjo urged young Nigerians to come together and bring about a meaningful change. He said Nigerians have moved from the frying pan to the fire and from the mountain top to the valley in the last 7.5 years. APC Presidential Council spokesperson Onanunga tells me only foreigners view former President Obasanjo as important, but to Nigerians in Nigeria, the former president is a political paper tiger.
Well, we have issued our preliminary reaction, and we have said the endorsement is of no consequence. It is worthless. Politically, it is nothing, because the man who gave them doesn't have much electoral value. So as far as I'm concerned, the endorsement is just a kind of a show, meaning nothing. So we are not troubled at all, because when Mr. Tinubu was campaigning to win the primary election, he never visited Obasanjo. We never saw this Obasanjo's endorsement. His endorsement, as far as I'm concerned, for all intents and purposes, it's of no meaning to our party. It's worthless. So it's not something that we are going to lose sleep over, or can you lose sleep over.
Does it not concern your campaign that this might reflect that Mr. Peter Obi is the most preferred candidate if the former president, two-time president, can endorse him?
No. The irony of Obasanjo's position is that we go by our history. When he came back to run as a civilian president, he didn't get the support of the Southwest, where he hails from. And he took some kind of cajoleries, some chicaneries, some subtle blackmail to get the support the second time around. That is how he was able to win his second term, because he found that he was losing support and he had to run back to his base to beg for support. And he paid back those who supported him in bad coins. Mr. Tinubu did not fall for that kind of tactics. He retained it. He was the only one that succeeded in winning back his election. All those politicians in the Southwest who supported Obasanjo, in fact, tomorrow, they are regretting lending him support. So let me tell you something. In the Southwest, Mr. Obasanjo is always seen as somebody always swimming against the popular sentiments of the zone. Always. He's always against it. If the Southwest is moving to the right, politically, Obasanjo will move to the left. If the Southwest is going to the left, he will move to the right. He's never in sync with our people. Always opposed to whatever our people stand for. In fact, there was a time people thought that maybe this man is not a Yoruba man, that he comes from another part of the country, because he's always opposed to popular sentiments in the region. So, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, he could be a two-term president, but for us, in our state, I'm from Ogun State, from the same state, from the man, Obasanjo is a political paperweight. So we're not surprised, as we said in our statement, if Obasanjo even backs the councillor will lose, because the man has no political foundation in the state of Ogun, where he comes from. We'll talk about the entire Southwest. You see, you foreigners are people who think the man is important. You are calling so much reverence as a Nigerian, but internally in our country, Mr. Obasanjo is nobody. They know what he stands for.
So how would you describe the campaign of your candidate? I mean, how is it going?
Our campaign has gone on very well. On the 4th of January, for example, we are going to Kano, where we hope to harvest millions of votes. We have campaigned in many states, over 16 states now. We have done many town hall meetings, and we have all manners of endorsements here and there by people who have political weight. We've gotten many endorsements that we think by the time we vote on 25 February, we're not just simply going to win. We're going to win with a wide margin that even Peter Obi and his backer in Abeokuta will know that the man who gave him the backing is just wasting his time.
Bayo Onanunga is the spokesperson for the Presidential Campaign Council of Nigeria's ruling All Progressives Congress Party, the APC. You are speaking with me from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The main opposition, Botswana Patriotic Front, or PBF party, has condemned the warrant seeking to arrest exiled former President Seretse Khama Ian Khama. The BPF contends that the charges against the former president are politically motivated and meant to prevent Khama from participating in the coming 2024 general election. The former president faces charges including illegal possession of firearms and money laundering, allegations he dismisses. Begi Butale is the leader of the main opposition Botswana Patriotic Front Party. He tells viewers Peter Clottey that civil society must pressure the administration in Gaborone to ensure political tolerance, respect for human rights, and freedom of expression as enshrined in the Constitution.
We as the Botswana Patriotic Front believe that the government of President Masisi is using the judiciary to settle personal scores. And this realization comes in the wake of him confessing to one of the kings in Botswana that he controls the Court of Appeal and, by implication, the lower courts in the country. What actually happened was that a magistrate issued this arrest warrant after it was alleged that the former president did not turn up for mention. Now, people must understand that he is innocent until proven guilty. We also believe that this is a trumped-up charge, that he was in possession of weapons of war without a license.
Why do you think this is a trumped-up charge? Because a legitimate search warrant was issued, his house was searched, the weapons were allegedly found on his property, no license. So why is this a trumped-up charge, some people ask?
What actually happened was that the matter went to the highest court of the land, the Court of Appeal. And a day before the court was supposed to give judgment, the intelligence agency went to court and asked for the matter to be withdrawn because the government had taken him to court, wanting to search his house. The Court of Appeal refused because the intelligence agencies had somehow found out that the case was against them. So when the Court of Appeal refused to withdraw the matter, the intelligence agencies, without a court order, went and searched the former president's house in his absence. And whatever weapons that were found there, nobody knows whether they came with them or not. That is the gist of the matter.
Now, so where do you go from here? People say they expect your party to issue such press release about your opposition to the arrest warrant issued against the former president because he is your patron, he is your supporter. And people are saying that if he is not guilty, he should go through the judicial process of Botswana because the judicial process of Botswana has proven over the years to be independent, they argue.
The judiciary of Botswana on the whole is independent, but we have pockets of magistrates, pockets of judges of the High Court that are in the pocket of the government. And we are not overly worried because very soon the former president will appeal this arrest warrant because it is not only unprocedural, but we believe it is also illegal. He will appeal this arrest warrant and have it overturned. You'll remember, Peter, that the government had accused the former president of stealing 10 billion, not million, 10 billion US dollars. The matter went to court, and the Chief Justice of Botswana said that the government had fabricated evidence. The current government of Botswana is, successfully decimating everything good about this country that had been developed by the previous leaders.
Begi Butale is the leader of the main opposition Botswana Patriotic Front Party. He was speaking with viewers Peter Clottey from the capital, Gaborone. A political analyst says he believes the decision of a court in Mali to sentence 46 Ivorian soldiers to 20 years in prison is the beginning of their eventual release. Senegalese political analyst Ibrahima Khan says the decision is in line with a memorandum of understanding signed December 22nd this year in Bamako between the two countries, which calls for the soldiers' release. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara, in his New Year's speech, expressed confidence the soldiers would eventually be free. agreed. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, had called for the unconditional release of the Ivorian soldiers being held in Mali since July last year. Mali's military-led government rejected ECOWAS's demand for their reprieve, saying that the issue is a bilateral one between Mali and Ivory Coast. Ibrahim Makan tells me the next step will be for military leader Assimi Goïta to pardon the soldiers.
I think it was a way of finding solution to the problem. I think the memorandum of understanding that was signed included the idea that the soldiers, because there was a legal proceeding against them, will be tried and sentenced, and then after release. One of the reasons being the fact that the legal process started and it could not be stopped simply because there was a political agreement between the different actors. They included that idea of the trial and the sentencing and the decision. And now we are all waiting for the president of the junta either to decide to send them back to Côte d'Ivoire or to look at a legal proceeding that will allow them to give them a kind of we call it droit de grâce in French, where the president can just decide to release them and to abandon all the sentence and everything against them. And to be frank with you, if Côte d'Ivoire had started this kind of conversation with Mali, we would have not been at this point because at that time they would have found a solution to the problem without trying to force the junta to do something that they didn't want to do.
So this is why, because I was reading the Ivorian papers Monday morning, and President Ouattara sounded confident that the soldiers will be released.
Definitely, yes, they will be. And I think the process was already defined in the Memorandum of Understanding that was adopted, signed between the two countries. Because I think, from the beginning, the Malian wanted a political solution to this problem. The Ivorian refused that political solution and felt that by involving ECOWAS, by involving other actors like the UN, they would have gotten the release of the people. But that was not the case, so they had to find another way of really compromising with the junta in Mali.
Does ECOWAS have any role in this? Because, let's admit the military junta in Mali is under ECOWAS sanctions. People were expecting that maybe ECOWAS should do something.
Well, the decision during the last summit suggesting that ECOWAS may be sanctioning Mali, for me, it was a surprise to me because, one, ECOWAS' role is to really help defining good relationship between member states, finding a solution where member states are in difficulties, rather than deciding to find a solution for one member state against the other one. It would have not worked. And ECOWAS is not designed to really deal with those kind of issues. That was, for me, the surprise. And now, you see, just after that statement made in the decision in December, a political decision was found because if you look at the size and the quality of the delegation of Côte d'Ivoire that traveled to Mali, you realize that Côte d'Ivoire now came to the solution that, yes, this requires a political decision and let's go for it.
Ibrahima, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for your analysis. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and thank you very much for inviting me to your program.
Ibrahim Makan is a Senegalese political analyst. You are speaking with me from the capital, Dakar. You are listening to Daybreak Africa on the Voice of America. I am James Barty in Washington. Today is Tuesday, January 3rd. For more Africa news and features, visit our website at voaafrica.com. Connect with us on all social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Authorities in the Greater Pibor administrative area of South Sudan say normalcy has returned to the area. This after last deadly clashes between the armed militiamen known as the White Army from neighboring Jonglei State and youth in Pibor. The information minister in Pibor says the attackers have started to voluntarily withdraw from the areas, adding that the death toll has risen to 72 from both sides of the fighting. Deng Gad Deng has details for VOA from Bor, South Sudan.
A group of armed militiamen known as the White Army invaded and launched several attacks last week in parts of Greater Pibor administrative area. The militants are suspected of having crossed from the neighboring Jonglei state. Local authorities say the deadly intercommunal clashes have left dozens of people dead, homes burned, livestock stolen, and tens of thousands displaced from their homes. Abraham Kelang, the information minister in the Greater Pibor administrative area, confirms that calm has returned after the armed youth voluntarily withdrew from the region.
The security situation now is become normal because fighting started in Gumruk is currently down a bit, and those attackers, they went back, still on the way. I don't know exactly place is saying, but currently they're gone. I heard yesterday some of them they reached Jongole, and some of them still on the way. And Morlay's community is still in the borderland.
Kelang says the death toll from both sides of the clashes has risen to 72. He says more than 42,000 people that have been displaced by the fighting are in need of humanitarian assistance.
Figure I have at that time I just reported 56, but the now adding 72. But it still is, we are searching to collect all the things.
Okay.
Because they are now including also women, they are dead. So that is adding to be 72. Total of number displaced is from two counties, which is Gumruk County in general, Old Payam, and Kongor Payam in Lekwangule County. 7,716 households and 42,440 individual personnel.
Kelang says some internally displaced people who have fled the conflict in Gumruk and Lilkwangule, including women and children, have arrived in Pibor town. He says some are sheltering at schools and others in open places in harsh weather conditions.
They are lacking a lot of things because person they are coming in one place to another place. They're lacking food material, food security needed, and also humanitarian assistance. We need to assist in others within a palace. A lot of things. We inform NGOs, but currently we didn't see what NGOs done to this community. But we are still engaging the community, the NGOs, to do something.
In a joint statement last week, members of the international community, including the UNMISS, AUMISS, IGAD, the Troika, EU, and RJMEC, called on South Sudanese leaders to urgently intervene to stop the fighting in Pibor. They also want leaders to ensure the safety and security of civilians, as well as unimpeded humanitarian access to people affected by the fighting. They also emphasized the need to investigate and hold accountable all perpetrators of the conflict, including those who are instigating and inciting violence and those responsible for the abduction of women and children. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says vulnerable people in South Sudan continue to suffer the cumulative and compounding effects of years of social and political instability, food insecurity, and climate-related shocks such as flooding. OCHA says the ongoing conflict, including violence at the subnational level, has impacted thousands of people in 2022, leading to multiple displacements, loss of lives and livelihoods. The UN agency says that this has also exacerbated people's chronic vulnerabilities and mounting needs for life-saving humanitarian assistance and protection. In 2023, a projected 9.4 million people in South Sudan will need humanitarian assistance and protection, as will nearly 3 million people who are expected to face physical violence, including rape and other forms of gender-based violence. Protracted displacement has affected over 2.2 million people who are not able to return to their homes. For VOA News, I am Deng Gaideng in Bor.
The faithful have been lining up at St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, where he is lying in state. Some waited for hours on Monday before the doors finally opened. Benedict's body will be on public display for mourners until today. Benedict was Pope from April 2005 until February 2013. He made history as the first pontiff in 600 years to retire while in office. He resigned because he said his health impaired his ability to serve as the head of the Catholic Church. For more on Benedict's papacy, viewers Vincent Mancori spoke with David Gibson, director of the Center on Religion and Culture at Fordham University in New York City.
Pope Benedict XVI made an unexpectedly close connection with the people of Africa. Look, as you said, he came in after 26 years almost of Pope John Paul II, the Polish Pope who made Africa a special focus of his pontificate. John Paul II traveled at least once a year to Africa and visited dozens of countries. Pope Benedict was a German cardinal, a theologian, very older and very academic and scholarly. He was not expected to travel much or to connect with the African continent. But he did make 2 trips to Africa, visited 3 countries, Benin, Cameroon, and Angola. And he made that connection, I think that personal connection. But there were 3 particular things, I think, that Benedict did that endeared him and made him an important figure to the continent. One is that he had a great focus on the environment. Benedict was actually known as the Green Pope for his advocacy on environmental issues and things that are really so critical to the continent. He was also known as, he was also very outspoken on social justice issues and economic justice. He was known as a conservative, but he was very outspoken, very liberal even in our context on that. And thirdly, he appointed a lot of Africans as cardinals and bishops and in critical positions in the hierarchy of the Catholic Church.
Well, having been the first one in now 600 years or more to step aside, did he in some way actually create a precedent for future popes, for the current pope, for instance?
He did, absolutely. Benedict, again, known as a conservative, did one of the most innovative things in centuries by resigning. And he made way, again, he made way for Francis, a pope from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. That has proved to be a prophetic move, shifting the image and balance of power in the church from Europe, which Benedict Joseph Ratzinger represented, to the southern hemisphere, Africa, Asia, Latin America. And what the death of Benedict XVI really opens a door for is for Pope Francis to resign and retire at some point, which I fully expect him to do. Francis is 86 years old now, and he said he would like to retire, but he did not want to retire while Benedict was alive. The retirement of Pope Francis could open the door, perhaps, to an African pope.
That was my colleague, Vincent Mancori, speaking with David Gibson at Fordham University in New York City. Gibson is the author of The Rule of Benedict, Pope Benedict XVI and His Battle with the Modern World. And that's it for this Tuesday, January 3rd edition of Daybreak Africa. We thank you for joining us this morning. For more Africa news and features, visit our website at